Okay, this is spoiler town. Get out if you have not seen Gone Girl yet.
We're going to talk about the intricacies of the plot, and if you haven't seen this and you don't want to be spoiled, dear God, look up the other
If you've
review.
read the book, it's okay to watch this as well, because it's my understanding that it's pretty close.
Is it?
I heard that there were stories that we're going to change the ending, so people who've read the book will be surprised. And everyone who walked out said, that's the same ending as the book.
Okay, I didn't read the book. So anyway, so let us talk about who Rosamund Pike really is. Because she's fascinating.
She's Kathleen Turner in Body Heat. Like, that's what she is. She's great. She's even got that breathy, just like, here's the thing. The first half of this movie is
Hall of Fame.
Oh my God, it's so great. But there's two cool things about it. One is, she's so icy even at the beginning that I never trusted her, like at all. I didn't necessarily know exactly what was going on. I didn't know she was such a bitch. But the cool thing is that usually in like a femme fatale sort of situation, they either just get caught real fast or they get away with it and that's the end. It ends with, drinking a martini on a beach somewhere. Here it keeps following her and she gets in a series of wacky misadventures, all of which feel like a different movie. When Doogie Howser gets her in a house covered in cameras and he's just like, I'm not gonna rape you. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? At this point, you can't take the movie seriously. You can take the experience of watching it seriously and you can admit that it still follows certain themes very interestingly, but you just know that David Fincher is behind the camera going,
I feel like the Neil Patrick Harris character, if there is any kind of weak link in this movie, it is him. It is he is it.
Well, he's playing two type really well. Like, he's so erudite and weird and funky. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I mean, I just feel like he is brought in as an idea. Like, here is the creepy, stocky ex-boyfriend, but I don't necessarily ever believe him as a full, fleshed out person. He's an idea, and I guess maybe that's the point, because he's a pawn for her to manipulate.
And he manipulated him before and left him kind of nothing.
And the movie has established, prior to his introduction, two other characters that she's manipulated and messed with, right? Not just Ben Affleck, but also the one played by Scoot McNairy, the ex-boyfriend, right?
I know that's who that was.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, Scoot McNairy has this really good small moment.
One
Scoot
scene.
McNairy, my favorite actor of the last couple years, so good, and I can't wait to see him get more and more roles. Comes in with this short scene and just is amazing, and it plays this guy who's been totally manipulated and totally screwed over by
Rosamund Pike.
Rosamund Pike.
Yeah.
By Rosamund Pike. So I don't know that it's fair to say that Neil Patrick Harris's character is that stalky, because all we've ever heard is from her perspective.
That's true.
So he could be a normal guy, and there is this series of correspondence that she clearly was, or at least the movie intimates that she was still in contact with.
She was
with a purpose.
him
with a
around
purpose.
in case she
And-
needed him.
right.
Yeah.
And clearly, a girl like that, a woman like that, is going to need somebody as as her ace in the hole, and the guy with money is a good ace in the hole to have.
Yep. But once he comes in, though, the situation just struck me as so arch and so ridiculous that even though, and Neil Patrick Harris plays it well. He plays it well, but he's coming in as an exaggerated figure. He's like the one-armed man in The Fugitive. It's like he's just that he just comes in towards the end to be like this random threat. But in Gone Girl, it feels like I haven't read the book. Maybe it's more integrated. In Gone Girl, it feels like Gillian Flynn got bored. It's just like, we'll throw her in a creepy house. Yeah, creepy house, that's good. That'll get me through a couple of chapters. But it works because it's fun and it's ridiculous, and Rosamund Pike plays it so well, because this is the one time in the movie where we get to see her plot and scheme while she's doing it. Everything else is, we see what she did to establish her escape, but it's halfway into the movie. And then she's like put out, she's completely taken out of her comfort zone by people who manipulate her and screw her over. And then here she's put in a situation where she is thematically just as trapped as she was in the Ben Affleck marriage, but it's more creepy and on the nose. She feels confined. She feels that she can't go anywhere. She has no options. And so she gets herself out of it. But here we get to see her take the agency and then put that plan into motion, see her lie her way out of it. But we know she's lying. And that's why it's fun.
We see various versions of her, and yet I don't feel like we ever truly know her, and that's the point, right? Is that we see
women,
her,
right?
Such bitches.
No, I
no,
think-
but I mean, in terms of like, we see her as the cool girl that she makes herself out to be as Ben Affleck's wife. We see her on the run, doing her own interior monologue, and we see her as she presents herself to random strangers in the Ozarks at the rental property where she's staying in. But none of these is truly who she is because she's constantly shifting, and that's what as you say, what makes it fun. We're guessing constantly.
I don't know. I feel like the version of her we see where she doesn't bother dolling herself up and just crams Fritos in her mouth, I feel like that's probably the closest we'll ever see to I want to not have to do this.
But that even is a construct to make herself seem fat and dumpy compared to the hot, New York, Manhattan socialite that she was. That is also part of the act, right?
I think that was her putting on a costume.
Yeah.
Right. To fit in with the Ozarks while she. Yeah. And the only thing I couldn't figure out was, she kept marking on her calendar "kill self," and I couldn't figure out if that was she was actually going to do that or not. I wasn't sure.
She said in her monologue or her voiceover that would have been like the ultimate fuck you to her husband. It's like, and then they find her body, and now he's screwed. But it strikes me there are easier ways to do it. I don't know. It is a bit of a question mark. Maybe she was going to try to fake it somehow. I don't know how she'd do it.
I mean, maybe that because she's such a narcissist and she's so completely in love with herself. How could she possibly take her own life?
Is she a malignant narcissist?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good phrase. So yeah. So what else? We need to talk about more random things though. Like what else? What shocked you? The killing scene.
See,
is it a scene where I wanted to laugh even though it's disgusting?
No, I laughed so hard when she kills a guy and she's like covered in his blood and she's wearing a white dress and she's writhing around with him. It felt like a Jess Franco movie. It's so over the top.
And
it was
she's still
so
having
much fun.
sex with him while she kills him.
Right.
And then rolls
Which is
off
hot.
of him.
Which is hot. This is Fincher's De Palma movie.
Okay,
absolutely.
Go
If you
into that. You mentioned
I mentioned that in the other review.
Yes.
This is absolutely. You could take this script almost word for word and have De Palma direct it, and you'd get a much different experience, more over the top. But I think that this is Fincher kind of aping De Palma. Like this is a movie, especially once Neil Patrick Harris ends up on the scene. If De Palma was doing that, we'd have no question about it. Like we wouldn't be complaining. Like we expect a little bit more, I think, out of Fincher and a little bit more style and a little bit more kind of grounded reality. But in a De Palma film, when Neil Patrick Harris comes on the scene and he's like the White Knight, and then Ben Affleck steps up and shows that he's capable of being as manipulative as Rosamund Pike is, and you see her make that decision like, oh, as she's watching the TV, you see her like, oh, okay, he stepped up and I can be with this guy. And then she starts turning the wheels like, okay, how am I going to get rid of Neil Patrick Harris? How do I get back there?
Right.
What's my big moment? And I think that within the context of De Palma's style, you think about something like, almost any of his movies, but specifically
Body Double,
Dress to Kill.
Yeah.
Especially the one with Antonio Banderas.
Femme Fatale.
Femme Fatale,
Yeah.
right? Like that totally fits. Exactly the way that he would have done that story.
In addition to having certain predilections about sex and manipulation and misdirection, there's a sense when you're watching a Brian De Palma movie that you're never really watching the movie. He never really wants to fully immerse you. He wants you to he's like a magician. He was like, look what I'm about to do. And there's that playfulness to this that David Fincher used to have more, I think, in films like The Game and Fight Club. And he got a little bit more reserved, and it's way more fun. I do want to say, talking about that thing where she sees Ben Affleck, there's a bit in the film, Ben Affleck goes on camera and he turns the tables on her. He makes people sympathetic towards him and it kind of screws up her whole plan. By that point, she realizes she's trapped here with Doogie Howser. And I feel like, I don't know if I trust that, because later on in the film she says, I saw you on camera, I realize you're the person I can be with, you have it in you to be just as manipulative as I am and we can make the most of the situation. I feel like once she kills Neil Patrick Harris, she's stuck. She has almost no options. The best option she has is to show up. And
that wasn't her plan to come back.
It was not her plan at all. But she sees now that he has regained the public faith and now that people like him again, if she returns, she can return to a happy situation. The public will like her, and then she can trap her husband because what are you gonna do? You're gonna break up with the victim of like a horrific kidnapping and repeated rape. Like that's what you're gonna do. Like that, I feel like that. I don't trust her when she says that she wants to be with him at all.
Also, she finally gets to turn the tables on the amazing Amy character that her life is, her life's been the inspiration for. Her mom is this children's book writer. And Amazing Amy did everything right.
Yes.
Now she can beat Amazing Amy. She can outsmart everybody and win the day.
She always talks about how I gave up the cello. Amy became a classical celloist.
Yeah.
And now I want to see the Amazing Amy book that follows this situation, because that's going to be dark and gritty. It's going to be the Dark Knight of Amazing Amy books. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm there with you. I think that I think the thing she didn't expect was getting robbed, right? She gets robbed. She calls, she plays her trump card, but knowing Neil Patrick Harris's character as well as she did, knowing Desi, that character's name, she had it out. And I think she knew all along there would be, I suspect that Amy all along knew that she could continue to manipulate Desi and wasn't actually that trapped. Like, she was only temporarily trapped. And I think that, and even then, I think trapped is not the right word. That woman is entirely capable of doing the same thing to Desi that she did to Ben Affleck. Absolutely, right? And I think that it was just a matter of time. It's like, okay, I reset. I got to play it cool. How quickly?
But
and I think it's
happy in either situation. Though,
she wasn't happy, but I think that her whole thing is that she wants someone. What happens with Ben Affleck on the show with Celia Ward is that he basically does the same thing she does, right? Right. Or if not outsmarts her, like, okay, I see what he's capable of. Like, he was being lazy. Like, her whole thing is she was complaining about the merit. Like, she wanted this, like, someone that's her intellectual equal, and as malignantly narcissistic as she is. Yeah. I think that that's what she sees, and it's like, oh, okay, there's the guy that I married, and she talks about that, and I think that that's as close to honesty as we're going to get from her.
See, I looked at it, and that's a valid interpretation, don't get me wrong, but I looked at it, and I saw someone who, and the one thing she says that I 100% believe, because it's in the performance, it's in the dialogue, it's everywhere, is that here's a woman who, like way too many women feel, and men too sometimes, but it feels more sociologically this way, that women have to change themselves to be with a guy. Men want, she says, the cool girl, the one who'll watch the Adam Sandler movie with you and drink a beer, and that's what she was for Ben Affleck, because that's what she wanted at the time. She is constantly having to change herself to be with other people.
But she's also trying to change him too.
Exactly, no, that's what I'm saying. She has to change herself, but she has to change him too a bit. But what she describes as she's improving him. She's making him better. He's making her worse. And when she sees that news story at the end, I think she sees a situation where I could either stay here and be in an even more warped situation of the situation where I went to ridiculously comical lengths to escape with Neil Patrick Harris, Desi, or I can go back to a situation where, because she's just seeing like another escape route, she can go back to the situation and she can control everything now, and they can be honest about the manipulation. And that's why she seems really comfortable. She's not worried he's going to bang her over the head or anything, because if nothing else, they're honest about their lies, which is kind of interesting. But there's no love anymore, and that's the thing. Like that, all that fiction was necessary.
The movie is when Ben Affleck's like, I look at you and all I can think of is the resentment and think of what we've done to each other over the years. And she says, that's marriage. I was like, damn!
What? It's the perfect date movie.
Yes, a first date, yes. Or an anniversary gift, a 5-year anniversary gift.
Yeah.
So please go see it and let us know what you think. Once you have watched our little spoiler talk, chime in with your thoughts and your theories too. Thanks, bye.